All right, fingers crossed that's all working. All right, so we have a quorum here, so I am going to go ahead and open up the meeting. So today is our January 27th meeting of the LBC. It is a minute after 7, and we are going to move forward. Again, this meeting is being recorded on Zoom. We do make those available through Stowe TV, and they're usually then posted also on YouTube. So today we have, I'll just go through the agenda and then we will go and get started. So we will have a little bit of time for public comment. We have, I think, at least one bill to pay. We have 2 sets of meeting minutes we'll review and hopefully approve. We will spend a little bit of time on the LBC annual report, which we have to provide to both towns, kind of wrapping up the year. And then we will spend some time on our sort of our plans for the FY23 herbicide or this coming up herbicide contract and treatments, and therefore what budget we need to have with the 2 towns. So we'll spend a chunk on that. We will have a chance to talk a little bit about where things are on our RFP and response to that for our vendor for the year coming forward. Then we will have new business and set a date for next meeting and be done for the evening. So we do have Conray and Dan and myself, Chris, all on. So just have a roll call there. So public comment, do we have anyone wishes to raise anything for the LBC?
I guess one comment I would make is that the motorbikes in the first basin have been really horrendous at disturbing the peace, if not endangering people when they go zooming through the narrows. I don't know there's much we can do about it. I don't know what the police can do, but I noticed in the police log that they had at least 3 or 4 calls about that. And they seemed to say, well, everything seemed okay when we got there to look at it. But it's pretty obnoxious.
Yeah.
Even worse down by the 2nd and 3rd basin.
Yeah, I've heard it was extremely noisy. Well, I know it was noisy on 1. I heard it was extremely noisy on 2. So.
And I'm sorry, you said this were the motorbikes on the ice?
Yeah, ATVs and motorbikes.
Yep.
The trouble is that, we don't have any regulations against them. I'm not even sure we can. And I don't know, I know what snowmobile regulations are, but I don't know ATVs.
Yeah, and I think that, just as you mentioned, Dave, the police log, I think the only thing that residents can do right now is to call. And especially report if there's any truly unsafe activity. I mean, I've seen them popping wheelies, driving halfway across the lake on 2 wheels of a 4-wheeler. But I have to say, I haven't seen them, kind of being too close to skaters or whatever. So, so far.
With no helmets.
No helmets. That's true.
And whether they're registered is another question.
Oh, yeah, or whether they have to be registered.
They do.
Right.
What'd you say, Conray?
They have to be registered.
They do.
As soon as you leave private property.
Considered a public way?
I'm sorry, Chris?
Is that because it's considered a public way?
Yes, you're off of public. Yes, you're on public property.
Interesting.
Same
All
with
right,
the
well,
snowmobiles. They have to be registered as well. If we get a foot of snow or so, like they're talking about, the snowmobiles will be out because we got really good ice, and if you get a foot of snow on top of it, they're gonna love it.
yeah. Okay.
So
Thanks, Dave, for raising that.
the snowmobiles, if I remember my law right, they have to be 300 feet from a house to operate, which is really hard to do on the lake. So, but there's no way the police can stop them either because they don't have snowmobiles. So,
Yeah. Okay, well, if there is nothing else, then we will move on. Any further public comment before we close that agenda?
Excuse me.
Okay. All right, bills. I believe we just have one bill for payment, and that is $14.99 reimbursement to me for the January invoice for our Zoom account.
So motion to approve the invoice as submitted for the.
I
Zoom-
second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I see all three, and that is unanimous, so that is approved, and I will submit that. Okay. Oh, sorry. So we move on to meeting minutes.
Yeah, and can we just take a moment? I want to check in with Laura Diamond and make sure that I believe this is being transcribed. Are you able to see and, follow what we're doing?
Laura's on mute right now. I assume so. Dan, she did confirm it in our last meeting.
Okay. Okay.
So, okay.
So I'll make
Excellent.
a
But for
motion.
the purposes of other folks, that you'll notice down at the bottom of your screen that it is the system is itself trying to transcribe. That's not one of us typing in. So,
Yeah.
and it does a pretty good job. It does make a few stretch, guesses at words, but generally it does capture the nature of the conversation. So
Sounds like it's, probably even better than me.
I doubt that.
It's working very well.
Yeah. All righty. So we have two sets of meeting minutes. One is November 30th. The other one is December 9th. November 30th, I provided some, actually that one I was
The other
fine
one.
with.
Yeah.
Conrad, did you get a chance to look at that?
I did. I
November
looked at
30th?
them both. I always make sure I look at them after you do.
Smart. You're a smart dude.
All right.
it's-
So do I have a
it's fine.
motion for the November 30th?
Why don't we have one motion for both of them? I mentioned that we approve the minutes for 11:30 and 12:09.
Yeah, I'll just mention
Well,
while we get onto the 12:9 that Chris did have some edits. I did those edits and I sent them back moments ago.
I
Okay.
saw them.
All right. So as long as then you've incorporated my
I have.
I'm sure you
Yeah.
have. All right, so we have a motion from Conray
I'll
to
second.
approve both the minutes from the 30th and November 30th and December 9th.
Right. I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? None? All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 Excellent. So those are approved. And again, Dan, you'll make those notations and also get those up on the website.
I
and
will.
Provide those over to the towns.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. Okay. Annual report. So I did send out a draft to you guys on that. I don't know, a week ago, at least 3 or 4 days ago, something, I don't remember. Did you guys have a chance to take a look at that?
I did.
Yeah. As always, you really do a great job summarizing it, Chris. It's a lot of work to pull that together, but I guess that's part of your leadership role, but I think you did a fine job with it.
Thank you. So any additions or edits or anything?
Nothing
Nope.
that, I read it pretty carefully, Chris, and I think you did a good job as well. And, in some ways, annual reports are kind of a history thing, but they're also a check the box thing. I think you did a great job, but it's fine as submitted.
Yeah, the one comment is about the water quality.
Okay.
As if I'm reading your latest version, you said that was of January 24th. This year, we did not experience the level of algae blooms in the lake that we saw in 2019, but continue to be cautious of reports of cyanobacterial blooms with potentially harmful cyanotoxin levels. I think it might be more accurate to say that we did experience algae blooms in the fall. And in fact, the analysis of that, at some point we can get into it in more detail, but it seems to have to do with the thermal balance within the lake, and Dave and Kirk could say more about that. But we did see, I think it was like October, was it, that, they were significant algae blooms. And maybe I'm going to check in with Kirk and Dave to see, is that a correct point to make?
Yes, I would say we saw more algae blooms this year through September, October, November, but they started later, so they didn't close the beach while it was actually lifeguarded. So the timing was different, but it was more severe, I would say.
And did we confirm that they were, in whatever way we can, that they were algae blooms?
Some of them did contain cyanobacteria toxins.
Okay.
So yeah, we didn't test all of them, but boy, it was coming up day after day there for a
Okay.
while.
Basin 1, David?
In both basins, actually.
Because I've seen a whole bunch worse ones in Basin 2 than we had this year.
Oh, okay. Well, it was worse in Basin 1, although we don't really have an objective way of observing all the basins. Kirk and I live on the first basin. The wind in the fall tends to blow from the south, so we saw it day after day. But Red saw it in the second basin on a number of occasions.
And I think, didn't we do, as part of our Healthy Lake Boon initiative, some actual toxic measurements using that algae test that you have, Dave?
Right. Yeah. They several of them did show up as being containing the toxic algae.
So how can we help Chris in giving her some language? Are
Hang on.
you?
Making a note, and then maybe I can read off edits to it for you guys. So hang on one second.
So while we're on the topic, Kirk, I forget if you've mentioned, I think Kirk is on, right?
Yes.
Yeah. If you could just briefly restate, you've made the point in other venues about what we saw about the temperature, equilibrium of temperature, and the substrate. Can you just sort of comment about that? Just.
Yeah, and Chris, this might be important for what you're trying to capture too. The algae blooms that we saw this year happened only after the lake destratified. So the temperature equalized from top to bottom, unlike the summer when it's colder at the bottom and keeps all of the water and the whatever matter there is. We saw that the algae blooms happen as soon as the lake was turned over. When the temperature stabilizes, the water on the bottom comes to the top. It as well, and the phosphorus that's down there can come up to the top, get access to the light, and start to grow into algae. So that was an important correlation in terms of the timing. We also, I think this is a new point of data for this group. We did receive the report from the UMass laboratory that did the sediment sample. You recall that we sent some scuba divers down in the spring to take some samples. They incubated those in the laboratory for 90 days and measured the phosphorus in and out of the soil, and found that while the lake is of equal temperature, there is a net influx from the water of phosphorus to the soil, which we would expect. That's typical settling. But that when the temperature stratifies and is colder on the bottom and the water is trapped, there's a significant release of phosphorus from the sediment, but it's not reaching the surface. We didn't see those high concentrations until the lake turned over in the fall. So all summer long, while the lake is stratified, there's this pump of phosphorus feeding into the lower layer, and it's waiting until the lake turns over in the fall, and that all comes to the surface. And this year, that's what caused the blooms this year. Other years, it's probably been different causes. This was an unusual year with all the rain that we had, but it's pretty clear that that's what caused the blooms this year.
So guys, that's all good, accurate data, but this in terms of the report that we're doing,
yeah,
we don't need to get that detailed.
No, and so but I appreciate, it also gave me a moment to sort of figure out how I might adjust what we have in here. So let me try reading this off if I can even figure out what I wrote, and see if this contains enough level for us to move forward. So water quality. This year, we continue to experience algae blooms in the lake, including some cyanobacteria blooms with higher frequency during the months of September, October, November, when the lake destratified from cooler weather.
That captures.
Phew.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good catch, Dan. I was like racking my brain for, you know, how much we did. And I was thinking we didn't close. I know there was some, so thank you for bringing that
Yeah,
up.
sure.
Yeah, Chris, all the science in there is not important, but the point that
Yep.
it happened after the lake destratified is a really important point. And I think you captured it.
Okay. So any other areas we need to adjust? If not, do we have a motion to?
Accept the annual report as edited.
Okay.
I second.
All right. Any further discussion? None heard. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
And that is unanimous. And I will make that change, and I'll send it back out to you guys. But what I have to then do before I submit it to the towns is each town likes in a certain format, you know, with a certain font and all of that. So I will tweak it for each before I submit it there. But I'll get it out to you probably in the morning with the edit, just in case you feel like it doesn't represent the edit we just went through.
Chris, it'll be fine. You know, in all my years of doing these annual reports, I've never had anybody but us read them.
Well, that might
Well,
be true.
and that, so you think we're irrelevant? Is that what you're trying to say?
I think that as a political body, we have responsibilities, and I think it's a historical document. So simply like Mr. Gelpi in the future can read them, but as long as they're a good enough quality, I'm happy with them. I don't need, you know, our minutes that we do every meeting is probably more important.
Yeah.
Read them, Conray. They're just perfect.
All righty. All right, moving on. So the next thing on our agenda has to do with our herbicide budgeting. So just as background for folks on the call, we have to budget and go through the two towns warrant town meetings, Springtown meetings, and the warrant process for the funds that are allocated to us for the herbicide treatment. So the managing the the treatment of the lake, and that is separate from what we put forward in our operating budget, which is more of the small stuff that we have and get through the towns. So each year we have to do this. The deadlines to get into the warrants for the spring towns are a little different in Hudson and Stowe, but basically we're getting to basically that time where we have to put forward what we want in the warrant. And as folks are aware, or maybe not, our Solitude contract, they've finished their services for us, their treatment services. It was a 3-year contract. That contract is completed in end of April, I think. And we will have to establish a new one. We have gone through an RFP process, so we are in that RFP process. But before we actually get to the point of awarding a contract to a vendor, we will have had to come up with what we believe is a likely a good justifiable budget number, or we won't be in time for the warrants. So that is the discussion that we'll be having here as a commission to come up with what figure we feel is justified in moving forward in those requests.
Chris,
So
if I could just add one thing to that.
Yeah.
The contracts are based on a physical year, which is January 1 to starting January 1. The
Yeah.
town budgets the FIS year is different, which creates the budgeting process for us. We have to budget it further out. You know, we have to have the money available ahead of time. So, you know, you did a good job of describing it, but that's the hard part for us. The fiscal years are
That
different.
is one of our challenges.
Right, and Chris has done a wonderful job setting up a spreadsheet that we looked at when we did our annual budget, and we want to talk about an update. You know, that recognizes that we really have to deal with two different numbers. One is the fiscal year, and the other is for the town, and the other is the contractual year, which is January to December. So it's or May, you know, March to February, but you know, it's a different time frame. So that's a good point. So maybe I might, shall I, Chris?
Yes, go right ahead. So I just informationally again, we have had Dan Barstow and Red working on the RFP, and so those two have the most information as it relates to kind of where we stand, information we may have gotten from vendors, that sort of thing. And while we won't be going through those, you know, any RFP responses today, they kind of have some background and can help us think through what might be a viable number.
Right. So we did talk to, as Chris said, we put together an RFP. We posted that RFP, and then that closed January 20th. We timed it so that we would have whatever responses we got in time to at least have, although we wouldn't have a contract and a final selection, we would at least know a range of numbers, something viable that we could make sure that we're comfortable with what we post in the budget. Red put in considerable work into that. Thank you, Red, and we'll get a chance for you to, you know, contribute to this discussion in a moment. But we did talk to Denise, the you know, town administrator in Stowe, who is the legal, you know, person for doing the RFP. We ended up doing a 1-year RFP. Typically, it's been 3 years. But the problem is that 3 years sort of assumes that we're just going to continue doing the same thing over and over. And yet, we've just spent a year collecting a rich amount of data, a much deeper understanding of the science of the lake, which includes not just, you know, the algae, but includes the weeds that we need to deal with and a whole range of things about the lake. As just one example of the insights is that the flow of water that we now have a better understanding impacts on the distribution and timing of the herbicide treatment. That's just one example. So what our RFP had two components. One is in this year, 23, do essentially the same treatment. Now it's a sonar treatment. It's a larger scale treatment that we do every 3 years. Do that as a, you know, as a normal treatment, but also commit time for some deeper engagement with the Lake Boone Commission, with the Conservation Commissions, with the Healthy Lake Boone Initiative, so that we have a new plan that will be a subsequent RFP for the next 3-year cycle. So this is a 1-year hiatus. All right. So Denise, Red and I looked at responses received to the RFP. Denise has said there really is very little that we can say because we have not made a final decision. That is coming up with some subsequent meetings. But we can say that Solitude had the least expensive bid. We had there were no bids within a significant amount of their budget. It is likely that Solitude would get the contract, but that is still not confirmed. Denise is setting up meetings with Solitude because, as you know, we've had some dissatisfaction with their service. So we will be meeting to see if they're able to give us assurances that the problems that we experienced in the past would not recur. But we can, in the meantime, use that number as a reasonable estimate. And in this meeting, we can't discuss any further about how that process is going on because it's a, you know, an internal process. And I don't know if maybe even somebody from Solitude is on this call. It's an open meeting. But that's about all we can say, except to say that their bid came in at $43,875 for the two components. Now, if that ends up being the bid, then that gives us the information we need in order to do the budget. So, Chris, I don't know whether you want to talk about that budget, show it or discuss it, but or whether you want me to, or how do you want to handle this?
I don't have your budget. I don't have your updated one on, sort of pulled up here. Do you have that?
I do. Do you want me to? You want to share screen?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and share that on the
Can you
screen?
enable me, please?
Oh, certainly. Let's see. So powerful.
While you guys are figuring out the share screen, this money, if we put warrants in for this, these coming town meetings, that money is not available to us until July 1.
Correct.
That's correct, and that's what we've done in the budget, is to clarify what portion would come before July 1 and what portion would come after.
Are you able to?
Oh, there we go. Okay, hold on a second. Hold on. All right, tell me if you can see that screen.
Yep, you might want to just, because we don't care about most of it, just make it much larger so we can see that bottom right. Yep.
Is that better?
Yep, that's good. Okay, so let's to Conway's point again. This is where things are a little challenging for us. Each year when we do this, we have to kind of budget with the calendar year in mind and the fiscal year in mind. And so this year, well, I should say, yes, this current fiscal year, when we put in our budget, we had to make some informed assumption about how much it would cost us for a treatment in the spring, because the spring is still part of this current fiscal year, not part of fiscal year 23. In this case, it was part of fiscal year 22. And we knew that we would not yet have a contract in place at that point because we'd be going through this process. So we made a kind of an informed assessment and put in $22,000 into our current budget, which has already been approved through town warrants last year. So right now we have 22,000 sitting, available to us this fiscal year for a treatment in sometime before the end of June. At the end of June, we're into a new fiscal year, and then we run into a problem with carryover or whatever if we need to go beyond that part. So we have 22,000. As Dan just mentioned, the kind of the bid that came in, which is not in any way an approved thing yet, so we'll say a budgetary bid at this point, came in almost at 44,000, so 43,875. So we already have kind of set aside 22,000 towards that. We have to decide how much we need to ask for the next fiscal year, which will be to cover the remainder, basically the summer and into next spring. So we have to, if we just think in terms of the milestones we've had in this past contract with Solitude, we kind of, an element was in July, September, November, and then in May or thereabouts, June. So what Dan did here in this spreadsheet is take the money that we, kind of that budgetary bid we have of 43,875, took out the 22,000 from that, then took the remainder and spread it over July, September, and November, just again in assumed milestone payments. Those don't matter in our budget. Literally, it doesn't matter whether we do 25%, in July, or we did 50% in July and then less the rest. That doesn't really matter, but that total does matter. And then, so we know what we need there, but what we have to now, again, make an informed assumption on is kind of two things. One, how much will we likely have to pay, what we need in May of following year, May of 2023, to handle a spring treatment, because that will be outside the current contract that's been quoted, but it needs to be budgeted for. So there's that, and we, again, Dan put in just something that we feel is a relatively educated, from experience, a reasonable amount, which we put in about 9,000, because we know that first we generally do a large treatment about every 3 years. So that would be this year. It would be a smaller treatment in spring of the following year. So that's kind of where that came from. And then the other thing that we just need to be comfortable with is that this 43,800, or we'll just say 44,000, if we feel like it will cover everything we need done, whether it's, if Solitude's current quote here is maybe quoting less services than we think we need, then we may need to make some adjustment here, in order to be in a position where if we ask them to do more, like we ask them to do copper treatments or some of the other things that might have shown up in the summary that we got from them and recommendations. So kind of those are the two elements that we have at this point.
For budget purposes, since we don't have a contract and we'll be going into contract discussions with performance metrics,
Yep.
I would suggest buffering the number up a little bit above the bid price at this point in time, because I would frankly would expect other things are going to come up that we're going to agree together that we want to do. And I'd hate to be hamstrung by something that we decided right off the bid quotes.
Yep.
How much do you think, Red, we should add for that?
$5,000?
So what, if you'll see here in this row that says 2022,
Yep.
the bid is 43,875. And for that bid, they commit to doing the work that we requested. A standard sonar treatment and so on, the analysis, the annual report, they commit to doing that. They also commit to doing the discussions with us. And the way, as Chris said, we divided it out like this and that, across those 4 payments. And that means that in the Stowe fiscal, and we estimated, as Chris said, the 9,000. So that means our Stowe estimated payment.
Well, not
For
Stowe,
that-
our total.
I mean, I'm sorry, Stowe and Hudson. Our total is 30,875. That's the total of this 10,000, 6,000, 4,000, and then 9,000 from the next line.
Yeah.
So if that would cover the base. Now, if we add 5,000 to that, let's say 5,000 and a little bit, that would be 36,000.
Mhm.
And then if you look in the upper left on column E here, that 36,000 gets divided into the 2 towns. 2/3 is Stowe and 1/3 is Hudson. So that's 24 and 12 respectively.
So guys, this is good. The nature of warrant money is you have to have enough money in the piggy bank to pay the bills, but you can only use the money to pay the bills. So what's typically happened over the past history is we always had a little extra money to take care of just exactly what Dan just talked about. We always had to have enough money to pay our bills. And so we always had to estimate a little bit higher. And then as time went on, we always looked at the balances in the 2 accounts when we asked for money. So what I don't see on this particular sheet, and I don't have it anymore, is actually the Hudson and Stowe balances on the current warrant articles.
Well, against the warrant articles, hang on, let me,
You know what I'm asking for, Chris?
yes, yes, and
Isn't that the 22,000?
and I can,
No, that's what we expect to pay.
yeah, I can give you that. Hang on one sec. But the thing that I'm not as clear about, Conrad, is Hudson sometimes seems to have, like, I don't know, like carrying more money than we budgeted, like carrying it from another year or that sort of thing. So that I can't tell you.
Okay, warrant money carries forward, okay?
Yeah.
So I don't remember if you have to encumber it or not, but I always do. So whatever money we have in our warrant accounts doesn't have to be spent in the physical year it was approved. It can go forward. So what you have to do is you have to have always enough money in your balances to carry you forward. And so what you have to look at is, let's just say these numbers, I'll take them as gospel right now. You know, if those are the actual numbers, then you have to compare that against the current balances in the warrant articles in both towns. And then you get a number that gives you what you have to ask for in the new
So
one.
I hear what you're saying, and so I think that in the spreadsheet from Chris, and it's now off to the side here, in fiscal year 22, we got approved for 20,000 and 10,000 respectively, 30,000 total. If we look over here, our actual contract was 29,812. So, you know, the balance in there is, you know, maybe $180 or something. It's
Well, yes. So that is true if our 22,000 is you know, a good estimate, right?
well, we could, for example, increase this 22 to 22,087.50
No,
and
we
have a balance of zero.
No, the balances
Oh, we
don't
can't.
count.
So-
So I'm not being clear enough, guys.
No, let me answer you, Conway. So right now, we have paid a total of $5,208.34 to Solitude on that contract.
But that's not the question, Chris.
Well, that is because take the money that we were allocated.
Okay, Chris, let me rephrase it.
Okay.
Because this is hard-learned lesson in the past, right? The two town accountants, right, Julie and Trish.
Yep.
They have a balance number on their balance sheets than what's in our accounts right now. And it doesn't make any difference what we budgeted for in the past or what we spent in the past. What you have to know is the number they have in their accounting system that they say we have. So you have to validate back against the two town accountants. And everything you said might be exactly right, but it might not be. We have to make sure we know what the balance in Stowe and the balance in Hudson is on past warrant articles. Because we have to know that when we ask for the next warrant article, and they will ask for that data. Does that make sense to you?
Well, it makes sense only if they are not like they haven't paid something that's not ours out of our funds.
And that has happened to me in the past in Hudson.
Right, but I think that we're only able to use for the herb treatment what is allocated specifically for the herb treatment.
Correct. It's a separate.
So the amount that was approved last year was $30,000.
Correct.
Guys, all the things you're saying is correct. All I'm telling you is there's a closed loop here, and you have to close it with the town accountants and ask them what their number is to make sure it's the same that we think it is. Because
Okay, well, I can certainly reach out and get that. Let's.
The surprise that can happen is that we do all this stuff and we think we have a number, right? And then we submit all this stuff, and then the town accountant comes back and said, oh no, your real number was block, 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 right? So I'm just telling you that the only numbers that count are what the town accountants have, not our numbers. And I learned the hard way that when I do this budgeting for the warrant articles, you always ask the town accountants what the numbers are in the current account. And because that's what they're going to start with. And you want to start with their number, not our numbers. So it'll make it a little easier.
Yep, point taken. So let's for the purposes of moving on, let's assume for a second that they have it the way we have it. I will ping them both tomorrow. So let's go forward with the assumption that we have at least what we assume and kind of come up with our number. If I find out from that we're way off somehow, then we would have to have another meeting, to kind of finalize things.
Agreed. Perfect.
Okay.
So, and so just to get what we're trying to confirm, as I see it, we know how much we paid, and you're going to get that information from the town. There may be something that we're missing in this story, but we have paid the July 1st amount of $3,900 out of this fiscal year, the September 1, 2,343, the November 1, which actually we paid a little bit later, 1,562. That totals 7,812. If we had an allocation of 30,000, that leaves a balance, according to our numbers, of 22,187.50. And we're saying we're going to spend 22,000 of that. We actually could increase this to whatever that balance is of 22,187.50, which I can do real time here. That's the full amount we have left. And that changes our total a teeny bit over here of what we're expecting.
Dan, what you're saying is correct, except your assumption is that our numbers are correct. And all I'm telling you is that if you don't verify the number with the town accountants, then your assumptions could be bad. I know in Hudson that, because of the way we do work budgeting and town hall, and it all carries forward, that it's very prudent to check with the accountants to make sure that the assumption you just made is correct. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
All right.
We'll do that. I will definitely do that.
And, everything else is perfect. I like everything that I see here. I'm just, I've got some scars from getting this wrong.
Yeah, but we would just as soon learn from your experience than go through it again.
And you got to remember that if we get this wrong and we don't have enough money in our warrant articles, it is a bear to try to get more money.
Yeah.
So if we, let me just find out, Chris, what is our time frame for getting a number? Like, we need to know this $36,000. Once you check with the town, if we confirm that that's correct, then hey, we got no problem. But if we find out that there's an error in there, we have to meet again.
Yes, we
and
do.
I'm just wondering when is the
Yeah, I got you. So still we're in good shape because that's April 1st.
Okay.
Princeton is our challenge because that's February 3rd. So that's the point that we have to have our warrant to them.
So we could, if you find out from Stowe tomorrow that Stowe or Hudson or however you're going to get it, that this has a problem, then we can immediately call another meeting for, say, February 2nd, just before February 3rd to make any corrections.
We could, yes. My preference, obviously, is to get it done as quickly as we can for Hudson. So,
well, then maybe we might say that let's give ourselves a buffer. That if it's within $2,000, say, of what we think it is, then Chris, you're authorized to make the correction in these numbers. If it's more than that, then we need to meet or something like that.
I'm good with that, Dan. So just to clarify, so on the spreadsheet there, the blue arrow pointing up to the 24,000 to 12,000.
Yep.
Those are the proposed warrant articles for the two towns for this coming year?
Yes, and that assumes, Conray, and thanks for all your help, making sure we don't screw up here, but that assumes the $43,875 bid. It assumes that we have the balance of $22,187.50, and it assumes that we add a little bit more than $5,000 as a buffer, just in case.
I'm good with that. That's because at the end of the day, the numbers we need are above your blue. All the town's going to care about at the end is what is the 24th?
Correct.
What's the amount of a
Correct.
warrant article? The
Yep.
24,000 and the 12,000.
Absolutely. That's all they care about. But we have
Yep.
to, because it's challenging to know what we're dealing with. So that's why we break it apart.
I agree. This is very good work. Thank you.
So we,
Hey, Dan?
Yep.
On the spreadsheet, where did the $5,000 get added?
So if you look in column R,
Yeah.
this amount, 30,687.50, is the precise amount if we have that bid from Solitude and if we have a $9,000 payment in May.
Yeah.
Then the next column, column S, I put in, a round number of 36,000, which is the 30,687 plus 5,000.
5,300 something. Yep.
Yeah.
Where does that number show up on this spreadsheet?
It's right here in column S in gold underneath the column that says with buffer. Can you see that?
No, I can't. Oh, wait a second. Your face is blocking it.
Oh, well, I'll smile and I'll write numbers of 36,000. You need to move my face.
Yeah. Yeah, there it is. Now I see it.
Okay, good.
Okay. And then that 36 in turn gets plugged in over here in
Got it.
column
Okay.
E that gets split up 2/3, 1/3.
Okay, got it.
Town meetings like even numbers, so those are also good numbers for a town meeting.
So shall I make a motion?
Go right ahead. We can make a motion and then we'll see if there's further discussion.
Yeah. I move that we approve the request totaling $36,000 for the herbicide treatment split between the two towns, Hudson 12,000, Stowe 24,000, and that number is contingent on Chris confirming the balances within for in our current year budget, and that if there is less than $2,000 correction, Chris is authorized to change that $36,000 number, within a couple $1,000s either way to make it match the actual numbers. If it's more than that, then we need to have a meeting and discuss.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I would have said it a little simpler, but yeah, I'm good with that.
Hey, you go for it, Conray. Go for simpler. I'm good with that. What do you want to say?
I would have said that the motion is that we approve the warrant article requests of 24,000 for Stowe and 12,000 for Hudson, with a contingency that based on the actual balances, they could go plus or minus 2,000.
All right, that sounds good.
Because that's what we're really going for here is, the budget is our stuff, but what the towns care about is how much you're asking for their warrant articles. And they will eventually ask for, probably all they're going to care about is the size of the contract.
Yep.
All right. So
All right.
Dan, can you repeat because it's going to have to go in the minutes anyway. Can you repeat what you have as the motion now?
That we approve a warrant request of $24,000 from Stowe and $12,000 from Hudson for the herbicide treatment. This is contingent on the actual balances within plus or minus 2,000 of our estimate.
That's good enough for me.
Okay. All right, do I have a second?
Second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? One further discussion. So we feel, so I just want to make sure. So we've put in the buffer of the 5,000 because we're not highly confident at the moment that we would want a little bit more services than that so far that Solitude quote gives us. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct, although I wouldn't say it that way. So in our minutes, what we're saying is that, you know, this is all estimates.
Yes.
And because of the way that town budgets work, you have to estimate a little high, not a little low. You know, so that contingency we have in there is enough to cover what we believe is the outside limits of stuff. I mean, this doesn't have to be in the motion or anything, but you know,
Right.
so what we're trying to do is we have to have enough money at the right point in time to pay for the contracts that we don't know how much are yet.
Yes.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, the inflation numbers running 10% or so, depending on who you believe, you know, that 18,000 could go up $1,800 real easily.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm just throwing numbers around, but we don't, that 18,000 is an estimate, and we don't know what that's really going to be. If that came in a lot higher, then we've got to have the contingency funds in place to be able to pay for it.
Do others feel that $5,000 buffer is a comfortable number?
I do.
I know it's not an infinite piggy bank, but
We
Yeah, I
don't-
think it's reasonable, Red.
we
okay.
don't have any idea what the costs might be of like the various other treatments or the other chemical that they recommended. That might be
Well,
something we talked
Yeah,
about.
so to be clear, the Solitude bid, if the towns end up accepting it, that bid is for the services as defined for the treatments and the normal process that they would do for the year. They specified what they would do, and it's a normal treatment. They're committing to do that treatment for that price. That also includes money for meeting with us
Correct.
to help define a future plan. If that meeting says, oh, well, you know what, we better do something in 2022, then that's what that buffer is for. That's above and beyond what they are committing to and what we've asked them to do.
Or what we might ask them to have, because we haven't signed a contract with them. So we may, in the discussions with them, say, hey, you know, you made these recommendations, or we're seeing this from our Healthy Lake Boon initiative or whatever. We feel like there's an additional service of this, whatever.
Yep.
that would make sense, whether it's treating the, you know, the, I don't know, the lily pads or whatever it is.
Put that in engineering terms, that $18,000 is a swag.
Yeah.
Which 18,000?
In 2020.
The 9,000 comes from like
Oh,
15
Yeah.
15,625 was what it was in 2020 and 2021.
Yeah.
So a year like that, if it increases, we're saying it would increase to 18,000, of which 50% is the 9,000 that you said.
Yep. Gotcha. Okay. All right. I'm good. So any further discussion? We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion?
I'm good.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, it's all
Skip
three
it.
of us. And it passed. So I will reach out to both town accountants tomorrow and see if we have any issues with what the balance is on our current warrant dollars. And presuming not, then we're good to go.
Chris, the only question you want to ask of the two accountants is what is our current balance?
Yes, of
That's
our,
all you need to know. That's all they need to know, that you're just checking to make sure that we know what's what for budgeting purposes.
Yep.
You know, don't share with them any more beyond that because
I will
we
not.
don't care.
And make sure it includes the latest payment of the
Alrighty.
52.
Yes, well, that has been paid, so that should.
Yeah.
we
Oh,
we
okay.
have
All
come-
right. Good.
That should all be in, we have no outstanding balances and everything's been paid as far as we know.
Yes, we did get confirmation from Solitude. First they said we hadn't, and then they said we had. So they have
Okay.
received that latest. Actually, that was 2 bills we paid at once. So they did receive those payments
Excellent.
from both. In fact, they got them from Hudson first. Okay, so that is our budget request.
And let me just also, related to this, I assume it's still okay that Red is our lead and that in the discussions with Solitude or however else we proceed, that Red and I are the 2 folks representing LBC. That way we don't have to do these, have a whole big public meeting if it includes either Chris or Conrad as well.
Yeah, and that's really the next agenda item, Dan. So we're all set.
Oh, okay.
Okay, get rid of share screen. We don't need it now. Thank you.
Excellent. So that will close out our discussion about our budget request. And then we did have an agenda item just to talk through anything related to, in general, the RFP. So I think that's
Okay.
exactly what you're saying there, Dan, is yes. I am certainly very happy with what you and Red have been doing. And I think it's important that there only be one LBC member involved. Keeps us out of trouble. So I have no issue with that.
I don't either.
Okay, Red, do you want to add any comment?
What's
Oh,
that?
no, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
Excellent. But I did think that what we want, and we may want to do a little bit more in another meeting at some point, but I did want to just spend a few minutes on what I saw, if you think is appropriate, what I saw in the response we have, that just might be things we want to ask. Or should we hold off on that? I know you're going to have a meeting.
Yeah, I think, let's see. I don't know how much we can talk about the specifics of their bid.
Okay, all right. So I'll tell you,
I think we have to hold off on that.
that sounds fine. So when let Conrad and I each know, at what point you would like feedback from us, separately, and we'll provide it just to you. So I won't copy. I'll just, give my questions or comments to you, and Conrad can do the same.
Yeah, I expect, Chris and Conrad, that once Denise and Red and I feel comfortable that we've worked out the issues, assuming we do, that there would be subsequent meeting by the LBC to actually approve the contract, to discuss any issues that might not have come up. And we also, we may want to check in with the Stowe and Hudson Conservation Commissions, because they're the ones who approved the orders of conditions.
Sounds good. All
But
right.
but if the numbers are as we expect, the pressure to do this in time for the Hudson meeting, we at least have numbers.
Yes, and that's what
We
we need.
don't,
We
and
need
so
to
now
have-
the issue with getting a contract in place, make sure it's in place in time for the spring treatment, because even though storm is coming, guess what? Spring is too.
Yes, it
It's
is.
not that far away.
Absolutely. All right. So is there anything else, Red or Dan, that you want to talk through or need from Conrad or I as it relates to the RFP?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the contract issues going forward and talking to Solitude are going to be around the performance metrics we want to put in place and better definition of them, whether it's trace or sparse or whatever it is.
Yep.
And the other is the extent of the planning process. How much participation do we expect from them, and what type of services, basically are we going to get for our money to add to the Healthy Lake Boone Initiative program and integrate the two together?
Okay. And
so
I
I
would
think-
just ask, Red, that you guys take the recommendations that they gave us
Mhm.
as the year-end report.
Like in the management section.
So
Yep.
line up against what they're proposing, because in some cases they don't line up nicely. And that concerns me. So they should be using their.
Yeah, but that's the part that we can't, we will align, but that's as far as we can talk about it, Chris.
Yep, that's fine. Cool.
Okay. Now, and I just want to say a big thank you to Red. The details that went into getting this RFP out, Red did a masterful job handling those. So I just want to publicly appreciate your work, Red.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Red. All righty. So I think we're done with that agenda item. So on to new business. So that's stuff we need to address in future meetings.
I have a question for Red. How thick is the ice?
About 7 inches.
Thank you.
Unfortunately enough for a motorbike or an ATV.
Trucks were spotted on the ice in Basin 1.
Who was?
Trucks were out on the ice in Basin 1, from what I understand.
I didn't see any
Really?
trucks.
You didn't? Someone told me there were trucks out there. I don't. That's all I know.
I've seen four, small little 4-wheel ATVs, but I haven't seen any trucks.
Yeah,
Good.
they sound like
One out
trucks.
there.
They do so.
Yeah, to me, the issue with the thickness of the ice, Red, is if you catch the type of fish that you've been catching, they're going to be so heavy, they're just going to crack right through the ice.
Well, they haven't shown up yet, Dan.
Oh, okay.
We haven't broken 2 pounds yet.
Yeah.
Sorry about the diversion, guys.
All right,
So,
new business.
but yeah, so seriously, new business, we do want to cover in our next meeting the recommendations for the weed treatment.
Okay, contract recommendation.
And
Yep.
we'll let you know, I don't know when our next meeting will be, but we may want to have one sooner rather than later. But let's see what happens in this discussion to see how we proceed. But I'm thinking maybe in, 2 or 3 weeks, we should have another meeting for that specific topic.
And I agree. And Chris, when you get those numbers from the 2 towns,
Yep,
if you could forward them to Dan and I'd appreciate it.
sure. Yep. Okay. All right, excellent. All right, date of next meeting. We definitely, maybe, let's see, so February. I would say we may not need one in February at this point. I don't
We're gonna
know.
have to approve.
Well, actually, I think we do, because if we're going to have this contract, if it comes through, if it doesn't come through, then we have a whole other set of issues to deal with. But if it does, then we're going to want to approve so that we are able to have them, get ready, start our discussions and so on. So I would prefer if we had a meeting, at least for that purpose, mid-February or something.
23, 24.
Those work for me.
Let's see.
Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, at the moment, I think that's okay. So is one better than another?
Not for me.
Okay. I will take a look at my full calendar, and we'll go with either the 23rd or the 24th.
You're retired. You're not supposed to have that full of calendar.
It doesn't work that way, as you know.
No, it's the opposite.
I know.
All righty, very good. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
All
Aye.
All right.
And we
Hey
are,
guys, well, we're, not out of the meeting, but I just want to say thank you to all of you guys. It's a lot easier watching and getting the kibitz than it was doing the work. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Yeah, but let's also remember, Conrad, that your experience, kicking in every now and then makes us avoid some problems that could be very time consuming.
Thank you. That's what I try to do.
yep, absolutely. All right, all. Be safe out there. Hope we
Okay.
all.
Good to see
Bye.
participation from Florida there.
Yep. Yep.
Hey, Dick. Yep.
Yeah, the ice is not 7 inches down here yet.